Number 10. The White Widow. The most wanted woman in the entire world among all the dangerous and violent females on this planet is known simply as the White Widow. She's suspected of being a terrorist who plotted to blow up several different resort hotels in Kenya packed full of tourists during Christmas. This woman is a Westerner. She has praised Osama bin Laden, and she is a jihadist who has eluded the law even while traveling through Africa with her 4 children. Honestly, that's quite impressive, even as violent and unhinged as this woman is. Her real name is Samantha Lethwaite, and she was born to a British soldier and lived an ordinary childhood in England. At some point, she became a little mixed up. Samantha's first husband blew himself up as a suicide bomber during one of the worst terrorist attacks to ever occur in Britain back in 2005. Her second husband later met a similar fate. However, she has multiple children from both men, even as she continues with her terrorist activities. Samantha's notebooks were seized in 2011, and investigators found them filled with praise for extremists and her own private hopes that her children would grow up to be the same type of people. What's truly strange about Samantha is that nobody knows how she became radicalized. She converted to Islam as a teenager, but nobody knows for sure how she moved from being an ordinary white woman in England to becoming involved in this unique strand of radicalized Islam. It's a sad story of how someone became more and more detached from their family and devoted their life to violence. But it's all true. Now, the White Widow is currently an international fugitive, and nobody has any clue where she is. Number 9. Shawntae Henderson. In 2007, the only active woman on the FBI's 10 Most Wanted list was captured and charged with second-degree murder. Shawntae L. Henderson was 24 years old when police arrested and charged her with the death of DeAndre M. Parker, who had been shot while sitting in a pickup truck outside of a convenience store. Henderson was a gang member and extremely dangerous. Clearly, she was not someone you'd want to mess with. But her gang activity led her to kill a man, and after the murder, she fled law enforcement to avoid prosecution, and it took over a year to catch her. The latest news related to her indicated that she was being held on a $250,000 cash bond. However, she won't be getting out of prison anytime soon. The FBI said that Henderson is a person of interest in at least 5 additional homicides and 50 additional shootings. What caused this individual to become so violent and ruthless? It probably has something to do with her upbringing, but some people are simply mentally predispositioned to become incorrigible criminals. Number 8. The Russian Spy. Anna Chapman was seized by the Federal Bureau of Investigation as a Russian spy who had been hiding undercover in Manhattan as a real estate agent. She was arrested along with 9 other Russians who had been part of the largest foreign intelligence network to operate on American soil since the end of the Cold War. Anna and the other spies had infiltrated American society as white-collar professionals, and this happened just a few years ago. If you thought spies were a thing of the past, think again. However, nobody is really sure what exactly Anna Chapman or the other dangerous spies did while living in the United States. They had apparently been sent to the US under orders from Vladimir Putin, but it's not exactly clear what their mission had been. What we do know is that Chapman had been dating an ex-Marine with an unknown level of security clearance, though not even her ex-boyfriend can be certain what kind of secrets he let slip or just how useful they could have been to a foreign government. Anna used her body and charm to wriggle her way as high up the ladder as she could before eventually being found out. She was only found out because of an undercover agent who met with Chapman as an undercover Russian agent and tricked her into admitting who she was. Number 7. France's Most Wanted. The most wanted fugitive in all of France is a 26-year-old woman named Hayat Boumediene. She was the wife of the terrorist who killed hostages inside of a Jewish supermarket in Paris back in 2015. Police believe that Hayat was connected to those responsible for the Charlie Hebdo massacre and that she had helped to orchestrate various terrorist attacks in France. She has since been found guilty of financing terrorism and sentenced to 30 years in prison. Unfortunately, for those who want her in prison, she has yet to be found. She was sentenced, but she was never actually captured and put in prison. Hayat is still a fugitive and should be considered extremely dangerous and at large. Nobody is quite sure where the woman is hiding, but she's likely somewhere in North Africa or Syria. She might not even be alive anymore. She hasn't been seen in years, but that doesn't mean she's not hiding in a hole somewhere planning the next deadly attack. Have you ever met a particularly dangerous woman? Do you know of any female criminals? Were you ever victimized by one? Tell me your story in the comments below. Then, if you haven't subscribed to Talltanic already, fix that now so you can watch all the latest intense videos. Number 6. The Queen of the South. The Queen of the South is a Guatemalan drug trafficker who played a major role in moving illegal substances all the way from Colombia to Mexico and into the United States. Sound dangerous? It was. This is Mallory Chacon, and she worked with a number of major criminal organizations across Latin America for years before she was ultimately captured. One of these organizations included the Sinaloa Cartel, once run by the infamous El Chapo. She was clearly involved in some dangerous business, probably making a lot of money for herself. Chacon was captured by authorities and pleaded guilty to drug trafficking back in 2014 in Miami. But she only served part of her sentence after giving up crucial information on other members of crime families throughout Latin America, helping the DEA to indict some of the top members of nefarious organizations. Chacon has since been released, but her whereabouts are unknown. Nobody's sure if she'll fall back into violence and crime or run away and start a new life. But one thing's for sure, this woman is not to be trifled with. Number 5. Shanika Minor. Shanika S. Minor was added to the FBI's Most Wanted Fugitives list back in 2016. She was wanted for her involvement in a brutal homicide and unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. Even though Shanika was the 509th person put on the FBI's list, she was only the 10th woman since the list was established in March of 1950. The crime occurred when Shanika got into an argument with her mother's neighbor in Wisconsin. Out on the sidewalk, Shanika pulled out a semi-automatic firearm and challenged the neighbor to a fight. At the time, the neighbor was 9 months pregnant. She was in no state to fight. The situation de-escalated and Shanika left. But she came back at 3 a.m. the next day and shot the pregnant woman in the chest inside the hallway of her duplex. The woman fell down dead immediately. Her baby, which had been due in just a week, also died. Now, this person was captured soon after being put on the list. She was out there armed and dangerous. Fortunately for the public, she was apprehended and now sits in prison for the brutal crime. There was actually a reward of up to $100,000 offered for some information that directly led to Shanika's capture. But whether someone actually received the award is not well known at this time. Number 4. Mistakenly Wanted. A mistake by Interpol recently resulted in the wrong woman's mugshot being placed on the most wanted list. Adriana Barton from Weymouth in the United Kingdom is a housewife and definitely not a murderer. And yet, she was mistakenly named and placed on the list of most wanted Britons in the world. Imagine what you'd think if this happened to you. She found this out when worried friends and family contacted her about the mistake after seeing an article online. She was being accused of fraud in Costa Rica and labeled as a dangerous fugitive. Thinking quickly, Adriana turned herself in to the local police. She's never been in trouble with the law in her life, and yet she was forced to spend hours at a police station while the bewildered cops tried to figure out what was going on. Adriana was allowed to go home, but it wasn't for 6 months until the National Crime Agency apologized to the shocked woman. It turned out the NCA had handed over Adriana's passport details and photograph to Interpol in Costa Rica by accident, when the police wanted the information of a different person, who was in fact a criminal suspect. Sadly, Adriana was never compensated for the traumatic mistake. Number 3. The Last Fugitive. This woman has been on the run for over 2 decades and hasn't been caught yet. But she's out there, and the FBI wants to find her. Since 1996, an eco-terrorism group has existed and committed over 40 criminal acts. Many of these crimes included vandalism and arson, with an accumulative $45 million in damages, according to the police. The group was known as The Family. Every last member involved with the group's criminal activities has been apprehended and charged, except for one. Many of them have already served their time and been let out of prison, but one person hasn't been found. Josephine Sunshine Overacre has been on the run since 2001, and authorities seem helpless to catch her. She's believed to now be in her 40s and faces 19 charges, including the destruction of an energy facility. Josephine speaks fluent Spanish and may be hiding out as a masseuse, a firefighter, or a midwife. She uses aliases to keep moving and can somehow keep a low profile and stay out of sight from the authorities. The FBI has an offer going for up to $50,000 for information that leads directly to her arrest. But after many years on the run, nobody knows where she is exactly or if she'll ever stick her head out to be caught. In fact, she was recently spotted in Oregon, leading to renewed interest in her case. This might be one fugitive you might actually be able to claim a reward for if you've seen her anywhere recently. Keep an eye out. Number 2. The Killer Girlfriend. In August of 1998, a woman who called herself Deanna Ray put an ad in the personal section of a local Louisiana newspaper. She described herself as having green eyes, blonde hair, and being hard-working. But she was lying about her identity. She was actually a drifter named Hazel Leota Head who was looking for her next mark. And thanks to her newspaper ad, she found him. Charles Barker responded to the ad after the recent loss of his wife of 11 years. Charles had received a significant amount of money from an insurance settlement and was lonely and depressed. Hazel used this to her advantage and moved in with him the summer of 1998. After that, things took a turn for the worse. Charles's children realized that there was something wrong with the woman. They figured she was just after Charles for his money. And eventually, Charles figured this out too. However, Charles was soon found slumped over the bar in his kitchen with a fresh gunshot wound in the back of his head. When he was found by his sister after not responding to phone calls, he had been dead for at least 5 days. The murder weapon was Charles's own handgun. The safe in Charles's bedroom was empty with about $45,000 in cash gone. His car was also missing, and so was Hazel. It's likely that Hazel killed Charles Barker, but she was never found by the police. Today, she would be 71 years old. She murdered this man over 20 years ago and has been on the run ever since. Number 1. Lady Bomber. Elizabeth Ann Duke is an American fugitive who was involved with radical political organizations and is wanted by the FBI for her part in several bombings, including the bombing of the US Capitol in 1983. She was a member of a splinter group associated with something called the Weathermen Underground, which was a communist organization operating on US soil. They tried to blow up several different government buildings in the 1980s. Elizabeth was arrested in May of 1985 and indicted on charges of falsification, conspiracy, and weapons. But she was released on bail soon after and vanished into thin air. All these years later, the FBI is still looking for her. They have a reward going for $50,000 for any information leading to the capture of Elizabeth Duke. Do you think any of these women will ever be caught? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thank you for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button for more insane videos.